A TCOG isn't technology, it is biology.
Do Cybertronians breathe? Many might have just scoffed. What an obvious answer, of course not. We do see them managing just fine in space, underwater, and in confined areas, so why am I bringing this up? Because we aren't talking about a gas exchange for survival. We know that, but are they drawing in air occasionally for other reasons? First up, gasping. Cybertronians gasp as an emotional response, but I believe it is not air producing the sound. Cybertronians without mouths can speak because they make the noises in the voice box, like a speaker in your electronics. Starscream can gasp in space because he's only replicating the sound. But why does Starscream pant when running or frightened? Here's my belief: Cybertronians respire as a way to regulate temperature. If internals begin to heat up, the body might draw in cooler air from outside to help. Because Bulkhead claims that they don't breathe, but Robots in Disguise has the bots breathe in some sickening substance. So to remedy this, think that Bulkhead meant that they don't need air to live, but bots still take in air sometimes for other reasons. What was Megatron doing? When Megatron is in a coma, his chest keeps rising and falling. You might think the tubes are doing this, but he also does it in Patch when knocked out. When awake, he is still, but every other character has a mobile chest when resting, like Starscream was normal in Patch 2. I think Megatron may actually have a medical condition. This isn't breathing since their chests don't move when they are respiring, but why would his metal be stretching and compressing like that? I wonder if Megatron has something like restless TCOG syndrome or some pressure sensitivity that makes his body want to relieve pressure off his organs. I mean, Megatron might be messed up. Have you seen his eyes? Why do Megatron's eyes go in different directions? They are funky all the time, and this could very well be a medical condition as well. Something might have been damaged long ago in the gladiatorial pits. Do Cybertronians cry?
It's a decent movie. I have to go dry my optics. I seem to be a leaking lubricant.
Blades, we don't cry, remember?
Speak for yourself.
Boo-hoo! I'm shedding lubricant.
Yes, but not as often as humans, or perhaps just not on screen because characters like RC swallow their pain. Fanart wants to make it look like Energon, but please go with the gold. It just looks like they're crying blood, I swear. Do Cybertronians sleep?
Go away. You're interrupting my power down.
A good power down and a stroll around the smelting pit will put you back in touch with your inner warlord.
You humans need sleep. We don't.
For 5 minutes. Could you not be yourself? For 5 minutes!
Yes, Cybertronians are shown to need sleep, but it's not certain how often they need it. Perhaps not every day. They do reference a recharge cycle in Transformers Prime and the novels. Insecticons are probably often sleeping a lot. Sure, they are made of metal, but they have more limitations as living things with cells. Why do they need sleep? Well, the same reason we do. While resting, the bots can heal their worn down bodies and give their heads a break. So what is stasis and power down? Bots are knocked out cold, coming online later. Ratchet puts Bumblebee out to rest and recover, so it could be like forced sleep as well. Ratchet and Starscream both act loopy after being woken up from it.
I am idle.
I can't wait to take flight and soar above the clouds.
Stasis is a hibernation survival ability of Cybertronians. It is when they freeze their energon and shut down bodily functions to survive weights or hide from dangers. Cybertronians can naturally put themselves into stasis if need be, but they may not remember how to do it. Stasis can also be forced on bots with technology such as pods, the spare bots of having boring, long space trips. Stasis pods also seem to help Cybertronians rest better and heal faster, as in Rescue Bots Academy. It can also be a weapon to freeze enemies. Cybertronian animals also use stasis to hide from predators. In Rescue Bots, the crew hid from an Energon Eater by freezing their blood in stasis. In fact, this could be the natural defense to hide from Predacons. How Predaking could have lost Wheeljack. What form do they prefer to sleep in? For some bots, lying down might not be so comfortable considering their parts. Ratchet wanted to sleep in vehicle mode, but that might have just been the best way to avoid the detection. RC did not seem to like staying in her vehicle mode too long since it was cramped. Bulkhead is likely the same, so whatever form they feel loosest in, they would probably sleep in. As for Predaking, his bot form is so compact and he can't lie on his back with those wings. Predacons would prefer their protoforms, the beast forms, to sleep in. Everyone else likely just rests on their own berths. Are Cybertronians immortal? Cybertronians do not die of old age. They can die of illnesses and bodily harm, but their sparks will not burn out. However, older bots such as Ratchet and Alpha Trion apparently have decreased strength. Time may wear down those joints, but I don't see why they can't have surgeries to completely replace their limbs with new material. Heck, they could even transplant organs from younger, dead bots into themselves, so perhaps time could wear down their bodies, but they can get around it and continue living. What other fluids do Cybertronians have? If Bumblebee could leak something, and Knockout and Blades mentioned transmission fluid. So Cybertronians don't have car parts, but their bodies still need to produce other fluids to power themselves onwards. What Bumblebee spilled was probably not oil exactly, but another fuel he produces. Their transmission fluid exists, but could be of a different chemical makeup. Also, both Blades and Knockout mentioned that they might have leaked transmission fluid when frightened, so this might be a real thing that can happen.
I think I leaked a little transmission fluid.
How do Cybertronians move their faces and flex metal parts like necks and wrists? Back to that living metal. They can pull and scrunch their metal, so that is how we get those flexible faces. But if you look at Knockout or Starscream's necks, it is just bendy metal. Some parts of bodies are hard, but they can bend other parts. You do not need a T-cog for all movement, so Starscream can still move his metal to a limited extent without one. Why do Cybertronians have different colors of eyes, lights, and blasts if they all live on regular blue energon? A legit question, considering that taking alternative energon like synthetic or dark turns eyes into that color. And Predacons naturally have yellow highlights without ever taking anything special. Knockout is not on red energon, but his body produces a red glow. This has to do with the subject I talked about in the first bio video on energon. See, their bodies are equipped to show foreign, possibly dangerous substances within them. So perhaps something scans the intrusion and changes the lights to display to other Cybertronians what is wrong. But otherwise, the blue eyes of Autobots are not showing normal blue energon quality. Eye and metal color is optional for Cybertronians. They are created with colors, but they can scan and modify themselves easily. At least the non-beast ones can for certain. So the blue is not a reading of their energon, it is the body's random color, and it can just as easily be yellow or red in healthy bots. In most cases, it means nothing. Bots tend to have themes, so a glowing red bot will probably fire red blasts. Back to blasters, some blasters such as Starscream's have other effects, so the difference in color could come from other elements in the blasts. Can Cybertronians have mental health? Yes, and I immediately thought of RC's PTSD and then Whirl from Rescue Bots Academy. Can be natural or caused by traumatic experiences, because what is natural isn't an issue, just a different structure of the brain. Whirl is not stupid, but she has an excitable nature and difficulty concentrating. She does not know when is it inappropriate to shout at her random questions, when others her age do. If you watch the show, you will know what I mean. Many Cybertronians might just have difficulty understanding social cues or have unusual interests. Chase and Medics from the Rescue Bots series just do not understand sarcasm and jokes at all. They didn't have traumatic experiences, they were just forged that way, and they relate to each other. I actually like the message of one of the Rescue Bots Academy episodes. All the recruits talk about how they love surprises, but when Medics claims that he doesn't, they try to force him to like them. They just can't do it, and in the end they accept that it's fine that he doesn't. The young bots show that you can just be like this, although Cybertronians can be shaped by their experiences. Megatron is a product of how he lived as a slave and gladiator, but some have suggested that Starscream isn't just the way he is because of privileged upbringing. Starscream doesn't seem to get social cues and social responsibilities either. He shows interest in befriending Knockout, but he's pretty bad at it. He was rude to him a few times, but never expected him to turn on him. You can actually hear and see his misery when he gets locked up. Starscream also is prone to blurting out things at inappropriate times or without filter. He's constantly offending and upsetting others, then is surprised when he gets a reaction. He doesn't seem to even understand the emotional damage he causes, doing things and then forgetting how it causes lingering hatred towards him.
Yeah, but then you helped Mech steal Bumblebee's T-cog.
So, he got it back, didn't he?
And Starscream can do some really smart things, like his entire plan and inside job. He's competent, he was the top commander of the Seekers before. So why is it that he is so bad at understanding others? Even Megatron knows better than him. Trauma is also possible. RC definitely has PTSD, as seen in Predatory and Partners. Starscream reacts to certain movements, raising his hands to cover his face anytime Megatron comes at him. He also seems to have Stockholm Syndrome in Season 3, now dependent on Megatron, and he's upset when he dies. The evidence is against him faking it. One, there was no advantage in freaking out. Even if Starscream thought, he can't be dead, he'll come back, so I can't celebrate. He doesn't need to act sad. Megatron won't come back and hurt him over something like not crying at the funeral. Also, Starscream would not have expected Shockwave to hold him back. Shockwave is supposed to hate him. What organs do Cybertronians have that are confirmed? Okay, processor, this is their brain. Voice box, how they produce sounds. Spark chamber, it holds and protects their sparks. T-cog, or transformation cog, it lets them scan things, and it also instructs their bodies in how to transform. Pyrovalve is the fire-producing organ of Predacons. The Dinobots had them put inside them. Optics, their eyes, which can see in infrared and ultraviolet. They can also zoom in and out. Audio receptors, located at the side of their heads, it allows them to hear. Olfactory sensors, located in their faces, which allows them to smell. However, a lot of terms you know are not official in the aligned continuity. For example, we never hear the word foot or ass. Also, glosses or tongues do not seem to exist. All art and shows except for Rescue Bots Academy have them without tongues, and even then they are not mentioned. Rescue Bots Academy may have just included this as a design choice for the kiddies. And of course, there are 0 reproductive organs. Full explanation in the robot section is knockout gay video to come. How did the Terracon disease create those fangs and tubes? Primus has creation abilities, so why not Unicron? If he wanted to, he probably could have created his own Dark Primes. But he is a being that loathes life and wants to destroy it all. The supernatural creationalist ability warped the bots into demonic creatures who will kill as many as possible. Unicron can change bodies like Primus can, and he has done it before to Megatron. How do they talk about airflow? Well, sounds are produced in the voice box, so probably like speakers. Why does Cybertronians suffer in the snow but not in the cold reaches of space? I don't have a scientific background, but I always believed that had to do with the moisture getting into them. Some people did have good explanations in the comment section. One was that space is not as cold as we think, only freezing in the shade or in places without the sun. Otherwise it is hot. They may also be able to balance the temperatures. There's no cold wind blasting them in space either. The issue with long exposure to snow is that it gets into the cracks, maybe freezing up their joints and important organs. And it does take hours before it becomes dangerous for them. Predaking can withstand the cold better because while his body froze, his fire-producing organ may have warmed his organs inside. Moisture upon him may have frozen him when he landed, but why didn't Predaking heat himself up and escape earlier? He may have powered down or gone into stasis as an unintentional response. His important parts would be protected by inner heat. It's all I got. Can Cybertronians heal, or would they bleed endlessly? Cybertronians can heal naturally like humans can with rest and time. However, also like humans, big cuts need to be closed. But once they are, those weld marks and dents all fade away someday. Cybertronians can bleed to death without treatment, but their blood probably does clot by crystallizing. And I think it would suck if all bots leaked endlessly without treatment. So I believe Energon scabs would be a thing. The Soundwave package. Is that Soundwave's face, or is it a mask? The Titan comics showed something, but I don't think they're canon, because some wacky things go down in them, like Starscream fighting a giant Viacon in a fight pit.
And see about repairing his cracked visor, will you?
The definition of that word is a covering for the face. Also, it looks like Soundwave is looking through something when we get his perspective, but you might disagree there. But the War for Cybertron designs show some semblance of a face. He could be wearing an eye covering like Jazz and a mouth visor like Wheeljack. He definitely has optics, but a mouth is uncertain.
Soundwave is no ordinary Cybertronian, inside or out.
What makes Soundwave so special? I talked about this in the Laserbeak video, but Soundwave has a very unique brain and some tentacles with neat abilities. Soundwave can download files into his brain without damaging it, which is impossible for the others to do. He can store all that information, but it is possible for others to look at it, so he has to protect himself. Soundwave can interact with technology through his tentacles or remotely, picking up and sending signals when everyone else has to use devices. He is his own device. a technical sensitivity that he had to have been born with, or else others would just format themselves the same way. He can connect instantly with the warship that uses tech to open portals, but he might only use his tentacles when uploading or interacting hands-on with files. As for Soundwave's tentacles, they can electrify and also see. I mentioned before that it could be possible that Cybertronians have tiny eye-like cameras on their alt forms, and so the same idea for these red dots on the end of his tentacles. What is the significance of a spark's color? What colors would our characters have? Cybertronian culture would give different meanings to colors than we do, but Primus might not intend to color the sparks on personalities based on his perception of color. Since Optimus's implied spark was blue and red, spark color could simply determine the color a bot's future body will have. That means Shockwave's might be purple and Starscream's red to follow his previous colors. But then again, what colors go into the Viacon bodies? Their spark chambers might just call forth random colors to fill them. Or maybe it was just a coincidence and any bot with a red and blue spark comes out with a personality like Optimus's. But personality varies wildly, so colors would be limiting. I think it is more likely to influence beginning body color. What would happen if you touched a spark? Do sparks feel hot? Sparks are strange things, so there's no telling if it would burn like the holy light of the Star Saber or feel comforting like the light of the core. Maybe you can't touch it, since sparks are able to slip into different dimensions. You ever find it strange that extinguished sparks could still join the Allspark although it was locked up? Or that sparks could escape it and wiggle into new bodies? Onyx Prime had a mask that let him see the journey of a spark across the hidden reaches of death. Dead sparks cannot be seen or felt for certain, but a living spark might be different since it can be seen. Are Cybertronians naturally born with single optics? How about more? Cybertronians are not always forged with 2 eyes, but most are. A few one-eyed bots occur, and so does the 8-eyed Dr. Cogwheel. The well is about variety, and bots don't even have the same number of fingers. I think one optic is natural. What are mouths for? How do mouthless Cybertronians consume energon? You'll wonder this since I said that all sounds are produced by the voice box. Mouths allow your average bot to easily consume energon. Mouth movement is not necessary for speech, but they are likely only doing it as a part of emotional expression. It is possible that mouthless bots open up elsewhere, a slot to insert energon. It's not logical that Primus would create bots reliant on technology to survive, needles that may not have yet been created. Maybe it is as terrifying as this fan art I saw once. Can Cybertronians survive in radioactive areas? I don't know much about radiation, but simply put, says Google, it can knock electrons from atoms and do damage to DNA. Cybertronians are also a sensitive, biological race, and have weaknesses artificial robots don't. It is confirmed that they have cells in their own DNA, so I am in the belief that high levels of radiation could start to affect them. We at least know they get weakened from substances like dark energon and toxin. But I'm not a science student, I'm a language student. Can Cybertronians get fat or buff? We see Cybertronians working out, but they don't ever get bigger. If they could, Megatron would give himself bulging biceps. They can't get fatter off energon or inactivity because that would imply metal is stored excess energy. Can Cybertronians get stronger? It seems that they can perhaps to a limit, but their body size isn't going to change. What they might actually be improving is agility and endurance. Running and doing push-ups could train their bodies to do more while using less energon. Perhaps it is only their joints and internal structure being thickened, not the plating hanging around them. If Cybertronians are not technology, does AI exist on Cybertron? Yes, Chuck, Cybertronians have their own automated technology and AI systems. If you don't know Chuck, he is a robot created by Cybertronians in Rescue Bots Academy. How does Starscream keep replacing his missiles? Starscream's missiles are not produced by his body. When Starscream uses them, they're not automatically replaced. When animators are paying attention, the fired missile is missing for a while until he has an opportunity to replace them. This also explains why Starscream holds back on using them, instead of just pelting others with the highly explosive weapons. Several times, the missiles reappear after they're switched to another scene or character. This is actually an animation error, much like laser beaks still being attached to Soundwave after he has been deployed. Starscream likely stole more missiles from military bases when he is rogue, or the Decepticon ship may have had a bunch in storage. I mean, look at what else it had. Why did Starscream have a replacement arm? If they are biology, why did Knockout say model? This bothered me for a long time because I had no answer, but one day I was complaining to my sister and I think she solved it for me. She was like, well, rich people clone their organs in the movies. You know what? I could work with that. We see Vcon parts cloned and Predacons are made out of nothing, so why couldn't Starscream clone parts of himself in case of an accident? Higher up, Decepticons might have entered a program where they could have models of themselves made, so that they could have spare parts and upgrades available when needed. These different missiles could have just been the creativity of whoever's job this was. So Knockout could look up what they had in storage for Starscream, and these things might exist for Megatron as well. Can you tickle a Cybertronian? You see this stuff in the Rescue Bots series, but when Starscream is taunting Optimus and Dreadwing, he says it. So yes, the evidence seems to be in, you can tickle a Cybertronian. How could they disable Breakdown's sense of pain? This is bullshit writing because that line makes no sense whatsoever. How would mech soldiers who knew nothing about Cybertronians know how to do this? And if Cybertronians could just turn off their pain, then why not do that before charging into battle to make yourself more fearsome? Why not do that if someone is torturing you? I have a feeling that was only put in because Hasbro didn't want excruciating vivisection on TV. This line we might have to pretend didn't happen. Do Cybertronian bodies decompose? Dead Cybertronians exposed to the elements lose their pigmentation and turn, as Megatron said,
The gunmetal gray.
all the old zombies are grey, and Skyquake, after likely months of being buried under rock. The plague bodies have lost most of their colors and were going grey. However, the freshly dead do not lose their color, like the zombie Vehicons. Cliffjumper, Breakdown, and Starscream's clone bodies are starting to look off, but they were stored inside and retained their colors. The Prime buried in the tube was likely just protected from decomposition and maybe even sprayed with something to preserve the colors. So if bodies start going grey, then this could mean that had Silas been allowed to walk around outside more, the corpse he was controlling would have gone grey and looked creepy. Can Cybertronians taste? Yes, and apparently Dark Energon is delicious and sweet. The original Predaking also thought Insecticons were tasty, and bipeds average. There's also a difference in taste between Blood Energon and Energon, since Hardshell could taste the difference. Do they have noses or not? It's all about the design, so there's no way of really knowing. They can't smell no matter what, so believe what you want. Do Cybertronians dream? Yes, Cybertronians do dream. When Megatron was in his coma, his subconsciousness went on to create a dream world. You can assume that when they sleep, their brains are still active enough to dream. And they would also be able to have nightmares, so you can give anyone the PTSD nightmares in your fanfics. These are all the non-sexual biology questions I received and thought you would be interested in. The next Q&A will be all the sexual questions I received. We will also make videos tackling culture and plot questions later on.
It is biology.